loads of people. Now, to discuss all that, Sally and I are joined by Bundeep Rangar from IndusView. Bundeep, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's start with the Daily Telegraph. This yet more revelations about what the Liberal Democrats are saying about their coalition partners, the Conservatives in Britain's coalition government. It's all a bit nasty, isn't it, I suppose?
It is, and it just shows how inexperienced they are when it comes to coalition politics, because what's not happened clearly very well here is the internal communication. You've got to make sure that the internal fractions and frictions don't show up, certainly not on the front page of a newspaper.
Well, I mean, to be fair, in the early days when we just thought it was going to be obvious, the clear fractures between and the differences between, there have been a few opportunities till now, haven't there, for them to show their differences of opinion. When you say, I mean, in a way, we thought this would happen sooner rather than at this point. Yeah,
and you did have a case of a very senior advisor to the government making a statement about people never having it quite so good in Britain, despite the fact that we're in a recession environment. So I guess you've got, one party, the Liberal Democrats, to see this one's closer to the working class person, and then you've got the Conservatives, who are obviously seen closer to business. And at some point, there is going to be a friction on policy. And this is a clear example of something where clearly some people have not been taken on board. Most recently, the student fee hike, and they've found a way to express their discontent.
It's interesting in the UK, though, as you've been saying today, Sal, the markets are doing very well at the moment. Financial markets, we've got the FTSE close to 6,000. So they don't seem to be worried about friction within the government. It's not worrying investors.
No, not as yet. And
as yet, right. Is that yet the key thing?
I believe so, yeah. I don't think it's anything that's going to threaten the government, per se. But I do think it needs a very sound kind of leadership statement from Cameron at this point.
Well, let's have a look at what's going on in Ireland. Another bank to become fully nationalised. In a way, not a surprise at all, given the situation these banks are in. But a bitter pill, isn't it, for the Irish population to hear about this problem is still not properly dealt with.
It kind of underscores how grossly underestimated the size of the debt and the depreciation asset value for Irish banks in their investments both in Ireland and in the United States and the key real estate sectors there. This is the fourth bank now in Ireland to be potentially taken over by the government. The government, by the way, already owns about 20%. And the key, I guess, question will be how do they treat existing shareholders should they take this bank private, and are they given some kind of secondary or preferred status when it comes to recovery of their investment value in a company that now needs, again, another bailout.
It could be in state control for years, though, couldn't it? I mean, if you look at the state of these banks,
sure, they're
not fit for being sold off anytime soon.
And the Irish economy ultimately is 4.4 million people, so you don't have a huge belly of potential surge in investment value in the near future.
All right, well, let's have a look at the French press now. Le Figaro, just basically looking at some of the situations going on there. And the interesting line about the Portuguese and China coming to its rescue. Not a surprise at all, because, of course, when Wen Jiabao visited and Hu Jintao visited Europe recently, they did clearly state, actually, that Portuguese bonds might be an attractive option and other European economies are seen in trouble.
China's great at buying debt. They're the biggest owners of U.S. national debt, as we all know. And they also have a relatively lower cost of borrowing for them. So for them, buying debt is actually a good thing because they get a better rate. Interestingly, India's biggest company, one of India's biggest companies, Reliance, is borrowing $3 billion from the China Development Bank.
But interesting what China gets in return.
And that's my point. That's my point. They want to basically buy debt to access resources, and in this case, the former colonies of Brazil and Angola are clearly high up there in terms of natural resources for China.
Yeah.
There's always a political agenda sometimes.
And I suppose at the end of this crisis, when the world eventually emerges in a few years' time from this financially induced difficulty, China is going to have an awful lot of that leverage, isn't it? It's going to have positioned itself very well.
Across, certainly, with the U.S. and certainly in Africa as well. They're extremely astute in terms of making sure the investments have a long-term beneficial value for them from a resource access point of view.
Do you think there's a danger for Europe in all that?
Depends how much debt we sell and who else we can sell it to. Right now, there's not many buyers there. Is there for Greek or certainly now Irish and Portuguese debt?
Let's have a look. I must admit, I'm going to skip over this.
That's the thing, isn't it? I suppose, bearing in mind that there are different types of debt in the Eurozone. Just before we go on to the great Christmas getaway, I mean, I'm quite interested in this whole issue of what China is getting in return that we've been talking about. And you can see now in this Portuguese deal that, again, they're seeing it as a way of entrenching not just the way that they're positioning themselves in Europe, but in Latin America, and in Africa, 2 former Portuguese colonies in those continents. So they see themselves as having a global strategy. Clearly.
Absolutely, and it's a very strategically thought-through plan, and it makes perfect sense. And why not? I mean, this is countries have been made and reshaped by access and sale of debt. You can look at Argentina, for example, and see where they are today compared to the early part of the century, and what changed them was debt.
Now, I must admit, I was going to skip over the great British getaway because, I mean, I don't know if are you going to head off somewhere later today?
You know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to stay very close. And in fact,
I'm staying in the UK as well.
And I live 5 minutes away from you, so we're neighbours, that I just discovered from the Abbey Road
You can both hang out at that zebra crossing together, can't you?
Absolutely.
That holds me up regularly.
Anyway, so we'll skip over that travel plan because, I mean, I am going to be one of those mad enough to go on the roads tomorrow on Christmas Eve. But let's have a look at Anna Chapman, who has...
Why not have a look at Anna Chapman?
Come on, much to Jonathan's delight. Yes, she has become quite a key figure in Russia, hasn't she? I mean, she's kind of been out of centre stage for a while now, but now going into Russian politics.
That's Mata Hari meets Anna Kournikova, I guess. But why not? She's being looked after by the Russian state and Vladimir Putin in a way that benefits and befits what she supposedly had done for the Russian government or the Russian state. So, and being a pin-up is not a bad thing, I guess. It's
interesting. There's an interesting story behind all this as well, and that is just how much Russia is spending on spying. Actually, we saw this tit-for-tat expulsion between Britain and Russia the other day of diplomats, and actually there's an industrial espionage almost involved in all this. It's one reason they spend a huge amount in trying to discover other countries' secrets.
And they get obviously a certain name for it, but you don't forget China's in the same business, so I'm sure it is the U.S. to some degree. So we just have a nice news headline item with a very attractive woman that gives us a nice cover here.
All right, well, talking of nice coverage, let's talk about that zebra crossing then. Come on, we have got a little bit of time here.
I mean, it is an iconic picture, isn't it? I mean, the front of that Beatles Abbey Road album, fantastic.
It is awesome, yeah, definitely. We all know it.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the question is, always it's off by 5 meters and so, which is interesting because Britain's very good at getting things.
Right.
Apparently, Paul McCartney is very pleased about this news.
I bet he is. He lives in that area as well, actually. Thank you very much.
We're all neighbours.
Now, I have to say, of course, Sally, this is your last programme today, of course, because you're going off for a few months to have a baby, as perceptive viewers might have noticed over the coming months.
A new production of my very own.
And we want to say goodbye to you in style, so if I reach under the desk here, actually, I can give you these lovely flowers, there you go, and say thank you very much. This is from everyone here on the programme and everyone involved in the programme.
Thank
you,
we
wish
Jonathan.
you all the best as you head off for the next few months. Of course, you'll be back after you've had the baby.
I will.
And got everything sorted out.
I will be back.
Have a really lovely time. That's it from us, though.
Thanks,
Stay with us here on the
Jonathan.
BBC. There's an awful lot still to come.
Bye-bye.